Right now, at this very moment, over 100 million Americans are in the path of what could become the most devastating winter storm in over a decade. And here is what nobody is telling you. The storm just shifted north. Again, Wednesday, January 21st, 2026. And if you live anywhere from Texas to Boston, the next 72 hours will change everything. I am about to show you exactly where this monster is heading. And trust me, the latest model runs from this morning are absolutely shocking. But first, let me ask you this. When was the last time meteorologists used the word catastrophic for an ice storm? When was the last time the Weather Prediction Center explicitly warned about ice accumulation over 1 inch? I will tell you, it does not happen often. And when it does, you need to pay attention. Here is your reward for watching the first 30 seconds. By the end of this video, you will know exactly whether your city is in the danger zone, exactly when the worst conditions will hit your area, and most importantly, the 3 critical things you must do in the next 24 hours to protect yourself and your family. And I promise you, at the 5-minute mark, I will reveal the cities that are about to get hit the hardest, cities that were not even on the radar yesterday. So where do we stand right now? The 12 Zulu European model just came in, and folks, it held on to the northward trend. Let me explain what this means in plain English. Yesterday, we were tracking this storm about 150 miles farther south. 150 miles. That is the distance from Washington, D.C. to Philadelphia. That is massive. This northward shift changes everything. And here is the scary part. It is holding steady. When a storm shifts this dramatically and then holds that position through multiple model runs, we have to take it seriously. Very seriously. What does this mean for you? Well, if you were expecting just rain, you might now be looking at ice. If you were expecting ice, you might now be looking at heavy ice. And if you were expecting snow, you might be looking at a lot more snow than you planned for. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me break this down step by step, city by city, hour by hour. Let us start with Saturday morning, January 24th at 10 a.m. Picture this. Southwest Missouri wakes up to heavy snow. We are talking about a legitimate blizzard situation developing. At the exact same time, the Red River Valley stretching toward Little Rock transforms into an ice rink. Not the fun kind, the dangerous kind. And Dallas? Oh, Dallas. You are sitting right on the razor's edge between rain, snow, and freezing rain. And here is something that should terrify you. If the temperature in Dallas drops just 1 degree, just 1 single degree colder than current forecasts, you could be looking at a catastrophic ice event. Not might be. Could be. Do not let your guard down if you are in Dallas. You are absolutely in the crosshairs. The mixed precipitation is coming for you, and it is bringing friends. Now, let me paint you a picture of Sunday morning, January 25th at 4 a.m. Most of you will be asleep, but the storm will not be sleeping. It will be wide awake and stretching its icy fingers all the way from Texas through Tennessee, through Kentucky, through North Carolina and South Carolina. One continuous band of dangerous winter weather spanning over 1,000 miles. And that heavy snow band I mentioned? It is pushing north into the Ohio River Valley, then pivoting east into the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. This thing is a beast, and it is just getting started. But here is where it gets really interesting, and this is information that just came in within the last few hours. Remember how yesterday we were talking about southeast Kentucky potentially seeing an all-snow event? 2 feet of snow? Well, forget that. The warm sector of this storm is so robust, so powerful, that we could literally see rain making it all the way up into Kentucky. Rain in January. During a historic winter storm, that warm nose is creeping north, and it is bringing rainfall to areas that were supposed to get buried in snow just 24 hours ago. This is pretty incredible, and I will be honest with you. It is also pretty unusual. We do see northward shifts with these systems, but this dramatic of a change, this kind of back-and-forth model uncertainty, that does not happen every day. And I have a feeling, call it meteorologist intuition, that I might come back tomorrow and tell you it shifted back south. I just do not know how much. Nobody knows how much. But for right now, this is what we are working with, and we have to prepare accordingly. So, what does this current track mean? It means a massive snowstorm for the Interstate 95 corridor between Baltimore and New York City. We are talking about the kind of snow that shuts down cities, the kind that makes the evening news, the kind that people remember for years. But unfortunately, and I truly mean unfortunately, it also means heavy ice for Virginia and North Carolina. And when I say heavy ice, I am not talking about a pretty frost on your windshield. I am talking about the kind of ice that brings down power lines, snaps tree branches, and leaves hundreds of thousands of people in the dark, possibly for days. As this system continues to push forward, we get a coastal low-pressure system riding up the East Coast. This secondary feature is going to amplify snowfall totals for portions of New England and the Northeast. Boston, you are about to get hammered. Now, let me tell you about the forecast that genuinely keeps me up at night, the one that has me checking models at 2 a.m., the one that has emergency managers across multiple states already mobilizing resources. We are looking at a potentially catastrophic ice storm from North Texas through Arkansas into Tennessee and then potentially extending into the Appalachian Mountains of Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. The Weather Prediction Center. These are your old school, by-the-book, conservative meteorologists who do not use words lightly. They are now explicitly warning about ice accumulation exceeding 1 inch in some locations. Let me repeat that. Over 1 inch of ice accumulation. Do you know what 1 inch of ice does to power infrastructure? It destroys it. Absolutely destroys it. Power lines snap like toothpicks. Trees that have stood for 50 years come crashing down. Entire neighborhoods go dark. And with the kind of cold air that is going to be in place behind this storm, we are not talking about a quick fix. The bullseye for this ice threat includes the Interstate 35 corridor near Dallas-Fort Worth. If you live there, write this down. The threat extends northeast along Interstate 30 and Interstate 40 into Memphis and Nashville. These are major metropolitan areas we are talking about. Millions of people. Now let me explain why this ice situation is so dangerous. Because understanding the why helps you prepare for the what. We have got tremendous amounts of cold air coming out of the north. Ample cold air, but here is the problem. It is shallow. It does not extend very high up into the atmosphere. It is basically creeping across the United States like a cold fog, hugging the surface. This shallow layer of cold air right at the surface is going to be very cold. 25, 26, 27 degrees Fahrenheit cold. But what sits on top of that cold layer? Warm air from the Gulf of Mexico. Warm, moist, Gulf air loaded with precipitation. So here is what happens, and this is the nightmare scenario. Clouds and precipitation move in from the storm system. Up in the warmer air aloft, it is raining. Liquid rain. That rain falls through the atmosphere, and as it drops into that shallow layer of cold air near the surface, it does not have enough time to freeze before it hits the ground. But the ground is 25 degrees. The air just above the ground is 26 degrees. So we are not getting snow. We are not getting sleet. We are getting rain. Liquid rain falling onto surfaces that are below freezing, and that rain freezes on contact. Instantly. This is called freezing rain, and it is the most destructive form of winter precipitation. As that rain accumulates on trees, on power lines, on road surfaces, on everything, it builds up, layer after layer after layer. A quarter inch of ice is problematic. Half an inch of ice is dangerous. 3/4 of an inch of ice is severe. And we are talking about the potential for over 1 inch in some locations. When the Weather Prediction Center starts talking about 1 inch accumulations, you know we are in for a historic event. If I lived in Arkansas or Tennessee, I would not even think about traveling Friday or Saturday. Roads will be impassable, not difficult, not treacherous, impassable. And while we still do not know exactly where the absolute heaviest ice totals will occur, there is a corridor that I am watching very closely. This includes Memphis, Tennessee. This might include all the way up to Jackson, Tennessee. This definitely includes Little Rock, Arkansas, and points south, maybe even up around Texarkana. If you live in this corridor and you have not started preparing for multiple days without power, you are behind. You need to start right now, not tomorrow, not later tonight, right now. Charge your devices. Fill your bathtub with water. Get your flashlights ready. Make sure you have food that does not require cooking. Check on your elderly neighbors. Another critical area is around Asheville, North Carolina. Now, the models show less freezing rain in this region compared to the Memphis to Little Rock corridor, but here is the thing. It does not take as much ice to cause major problems in Asheville. Why? Trees. Lots and lots of trees. Beautiful mountain terrain with power infrastructure strung through the hills and valleys. When you have half an inch of ice come through an area like this, even if that is all you get, it brings down massive amounts of vegetation onto power lines. Widespread outages are almost guaranteed. If you are in the Asheville area, if you are in the North Carolina mountains, you need to be prepared as well. And everywhere in between these bullseye areas, while the majority of states like Kentucky might not be in the highest threat zone, there will be pockets that end up with significant ice accumulation and power outages. If you see your area highlighted in pink on ice accumulation maps, you should be taking this seriously and preparing accordingly. Now let us talk snow. Let me pull up the latest snowfall totals from the National Blend of Models. This is a consensus forecast that takes multiple models and averages them together. It is usually pretty reliable, though in a dynamic situation like this, things can still change. We are looking at serious snow between Oklahoma City and Wichita, Kansas. 8 to 12 inches of accumulation is possible in this zone. That is a legitimate snowstorm. Amarillo, Texas, you are looking at 8 to 10 inches. Wichita Falls, you are probably a little too far south to get in on the heaviest snow, but 3 or 4 inches is definitely possible. Dallas, current models show about 2 inches. But remember everything I said about that transition zone. Everyone on the fringe, in that transition area, is fair game for catastrophic ice. Just north of that zone in Bentonville, Arkansas, we are talking about 8 inches of snow. That sounds realistic to me. But here is something the models have not fully resolved yet. See how there is a huge area of over a foot of snow in one region and then another separate bullseye farther east? There will be a connection. There has to be a connection. There is going to be a narrow band, probably not very wide, that likely receives over a foot of snow connecting these two areas. But we do not know exactly where that band sets up yet. It could include St. Louis. It could include Jonesboro. It could be anywhere in between. This is one of those details that will not become clear until we are much closer to the event. That connecting band could also include Bentonville or Springfield, Missouri. So while 8 inches is the current forecast, do not be shocked if some locations in this general area end up with 12 to 15 inches if they get under that heavier band. Nashville, Tennessee. Oh, Nashville. Yesterday, we were talking about over a foot of snow, potentially. Now we are talking about more warm air moving into the picture and ice becoming a much bigger problem. Snow is less of a concern at this point, but we are still 3 to 4 days out. Things could shift back tomorrow. Right now, anywhere between 5 and 8 inches of snow is possible between Nashville and Clarksville, with ice problems on top of that. That is going to be a mess. A dangerous, travel-stopping, power outage-inducing mess. Lexington, Kentucky still looks like around a foot of snow. Pikeville, over in the eastern part of the state, 8 inches. Cincinnati, Ohio, 10 inches. And then things get really interesting over in the mid-Atlantic and Northeast. We are talking about a foot of snow or more from Richmond, Virginia, all the way up to Boston, Massachusetts, and back to Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Pittsburgh, 10 inches. Now, I think this might be slightly too large of an area. I definitely believe we will have a swath of 12 to 18 inches of snow along the East Coast. I am just not convinced it will cover this extensive of an area. Get ready for more than a foot of snow if you live in Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, New York, or Boston. Those cities are going to get crushed. But Williamsport, Harrisburg, areas a little bit farther inland, I am not completely sold that we will be dealing with this much snow that far from the coast. I could be wrong. Models could be right. But let us not assume this huge area of high snow totals just yet. Let us mentally shrink it down a little bit and see how things evolve. If this expansive snowfall area continues to show up on subsequent model runs, we will certainly let you know. And yes, I know we have got a lot of people watching from Asheville, Charlotte, and Raleigh, all the way down into portions of South Carolina. For North Carolina, the big snow event is not going to happen based on current modeling. ice is going to be a much bigger problem. The farther north you are in North Carolina, the more snow you could potentially see. Raleigh to Greensboro, we are talking about 2 to 4 inches. Just north of Winston-Salem, there will be a couple of locations that could potentially get 6 inches of snow. But your biggest problem, unfortunately, is going to be ice. Destructive, power line snapping, tree-breaking ice. Now let me tell you about the engine driving this entire historic event, because understanding this helps you understand why this storm is so dangerous and why the cold is going to be so persistent. We have got a crazy high-pressure system diving out of Canada. This is not your typical winter high pressure. This is an Arctic beast. This high-pressure system is literally dragging the North Pole down onto the United States. I am not exaggerating. The core of this air mass originated over the Arctic Circle, and it is now bulldozing its way south, pushing incredibly cold air over the Gulf of Mexico. That is where all this comes together. Arctic air meets Gulf moisture, and the result is a historic winter storm. But here is what really concerns me about this pattern. This cold air is going to stick around. I have mentioned this in previous updates, but it bears repeating because I do not think people fully grasp what is coming. It is going to be colder than it has been in over a decade for many locations after this storm passes. And it is not like the next day it gets better. It is not even like 2 or 3 days later it gets better. This cold has staying power. Serious staying power. It could be several days before many people, even in the South, even in places like Alabama and Georgia and the Carolinas, get back above freezing. Several days. Think about what that means if you lose power during the ice storm. Think about what that means for burst pipes, for people who are homeless, for the elderly. This is not just a weather event. This is a potential humanitarian crisis in the making. The cold pattern is locked and loaded, and it is not going anywhere anytime soon. In fact, there is so much cold air in place, so much Arctic air mass flooding the continental United States, that there is already another signal for another major snowstorm after this one. We are not going to talk about that yet. One storm at a time. But understand that we are in a really intense winter pattern right now. This is not a one-and-done situation. So, when does this all start? Friday, January 23rd, we already have an enhanced risk of winter storm conditions from Oklahoma City over to Little Rock. If you live in this zone, you need to be taking precautions now, especially if you are in the purple highlighted area. Stock up on supplies. Prepare for power outages. Cancel travel plans. Saturday, January 24th. That is our biggest day. That is when the most people will be impacted. If you do not care about the weather right now, you will on Saturday. I guarantee it. Hold me to that. You will care on Saturday. The enhanced probability area for severe winter weather is probably going to shift north on the next update, which I will show you in the next video. And then we have got day 5, which brings us to Monday, January 26th, with an enhanced risk all the way over on the East Coast from Richmond up toward Boston. This area is likely going to expand as well. Now let me give you the 3 critical things you need to do in the next 24 hours. Number 1, finalize your preparations. If you are in any of the highlighted areas I mentioned, assume you could lose power for multiple days. That means water, food that does not require cooking, medications, flashlights, batteries, a way to stay warm without electricity. Number 2, communicate your plans. Make sure family members know where you will be. Check on elderly neighbors. Coordinate with your workplace about potential closures. Do not assume everything will be fine. Prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Number 3, stay informed. Weather conditions are going to change rapidly. Models are still fluctuating. The difference between rain, ice, and snow could come down to just a couple of degrees and a few miles. You need to be monitoring updates constantly over the next 72 hours. Before I go, I need you to do something for me. Drop a comment right now telling me where you are watching from, your city and state. This helps me understand who is watching and what areas I need to focus on in future updates. Plus, when you comment, you are more likely to see my next video in your feed. And trust me, you are going to want to see the next update. Things are changing fast with this storm. Model runs are coming in every 6 hours. Each one tells us something new. Each one refines the forecast. And I will be here every step of the way bringing you the latest information. We are doing 2 videos per day on this storm, something we have never done before. That is how significant this event is. We will probably go live Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as the storm unfolds in real time. You are not going to want to miss that coverage. The next video drops in 12 hours, and I promise you it will have critical updates you need to see. The 5 a.m. model runs will be in. We will have a much better idea of exactly where that heavy snow band sets up, exactly where the worst ice will occur, and exactly when conditions deteriorate in your area. But here is what I need you to understand right now. This is not hype. This is not clickbait. This is a legitimate, historic, dangerous winter storm. The Weather Prediction Center does not use the word catastrophic lightly. Emergency managers across a dozen states are not mobilizing resources for fun. Over 100 million Americans are about to be impacted by this system. Some will see minor impacts. Some will see moderate impacts. And some, particularly in that ice belt from Texas through Tennessee, could see catastrophic, life-altering impacts. The difference between being prepared and being caught off guard could literally be life or death for some people. I am not trying to scare you. I am trying to inform you. There is a difference. So take this seriously. Share this information with friends and family in affected areas. Make sure everyone you care about knows what is coming and has a plan. Remember, drop that comment with your location. Subscribe if you have not already. Turn on notifications so you do not miss the critical updates coming over the next few days. And whatever you do, stay safe out there. The storm is coming. It is real. It is big. And it is going to change a lot of lives over the next week. But if we prepare, if we stay informed, if we look out for each other, we will get through this together. 12 hours until the next update. I will see you then. Stay safe, stay warm, and stay informed.